Welcome back to the FTN NFL Team Preview Series. I'm your host, Mike Randle. Follow me on X at Randle Rand. And today we go to Vegas to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders with Adam Hill of the Vegas Review Journal. Follow him on X at Adam Hill VRJ. And remember, we are sponsored by Boom Fantasy. It's your top choice for daily fantasy sports action. Boom Fantasy, most innovative games that cater both the casual and the hardcore fan. Win up to 500 times your entry only at Boom Fantasy. Download it on App Store or Google Play. Use that promo code FTN. No sweat bonus up to $100. Adam, great to have you here. Let's start with the quarterback position. We got some stuff with Davante Adams. We can talk about Zamir White, but talk about the quarterback position. Who you think is going to start and for how long this year, if you had to make a guess, as we head into 2024 season for the Vegas Raiders?
Yeah, do we have to talk about the quarterback position? It's not pretty. It wasn't a good thing to watch during OTAs and minicamp. It's been a bit of a mess for sure. There's no question about it. I think everybody kind of realized that at the facility. Now, there's reasons, right? If you dive into it, the defense, I think, is going to be really, really good. It's also a lot of continuity on that side of the ball. The same defensive coordinator coming back. The defense is far, far ahead of the offense at this point. And I think you saw that with some of the quarterback play that was going on at OTAs and minicamp. It was bad, and one day was worse than the next. And I think a lot of people after OTAs and minicamp in the organization were saying, what's going on here? Is this going to be sustainable going into the season? I think it was a little bit of an overreaction, maybe. Like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was bad. But I think you can dive in and say there's reasons why it was bad, and I think it could be better in training camp. But in terms of who's going to start, I think it's very interesting when you kind of lay out the way the season's going to play out. I saw there was odds up on who's going to be the starting quarterback on some of the sports books. Gardner Minshew was favored to be the starter, and going into OTAs, I would have thought that was the case as well. But I have to think right now, if you had to make the bet, I think there's value on betting Aiden O'Connell to be the starting quarterback week one. Now, he's taking the first snaps every day. He's going to continue to take the first snaps as training camp starts down in Orange County because they think, look, he was here last year. He's earned that loyalty. He's earned the chance to be the first guy. It's an open competition. He's not ahead in the competition, but he's going to get the first chance. And I think if you look at it, the worst thing that can happen for the Raiders this season, the absolute worst case scenario, is that they finish 7-10 or 8-9, and Gardner Minshew is the quarterback. And then you go into next year thinking, well, we're bad, but maybe Aiden O'Connell can play quarterback. So then you go into 2025 playing Aiden O'Connell, seeing if he has anything. You have to find out if he has any ability. I don't think he's a long-term answer as starting quarterback, but you don't know that. So I think you have to give him a chance at some point this season to see if he can be the guy going forward, because you don't want to go into a season with uncertainty of whether he may or may not be the guy going forward.
Adam is kicking us off with a bomb there. You already have odds. The quarterback, great job. Let's get to something maybe a little more secure and certainly with a lot more upside. That's your running back position. Zamir White, 6 feet, 215, bowling ball. Last 4 games, Adam, last year, 85, 145, 106, and 121 total yards. Seems to be like he's going to carry the ball 17, 22, 20, and 25 carries last year. Talk about the running back position. No, Alexander Madison's there too. Talk about running back for the Raiders here.
Yeah, you mentioned it, so I was going to throw the cold water on this, but I'll let you do it for me here. I do think Alexander Madison has a role. I don't think he was brought here to just sit on the bench or just be a tutor for Zamir White. I love Zamir White as a kid. He's one of the nicer kids you're going to meet in the entire league. I'm excited for him to have his opportunities as a starter, if for nothing else, for them people to get to know him a little bit. A guy who he works on the farm in the offseason. He grew up working on the farm. He's back on the farm right now. We ask him how he works out in the offseason. He says, carrying hay around and, working with the horses on the farm. Like that's literally who he is. Just a great, great kid. But I don't know if they believe he can carry, like you mentioned, 22, 24 times a game throughout the course of an entire season. And I don't think that's what they want him to do. I think they want him to be more of a 15, 18 guy. Probably not use him all the time on third down necessarily. He had some struggles in pass protection at times. So I think he's more early down guy. I think he's getting you the 15 to 18. I don't know exactly what his role is going to be inside the 5-yard line, which is obviously a big question for fantasy. I think Zamir White is going to have a very good season. I think he's a very good player who's going to be productive, but I do think his fantasy value is going to be somewhat hampered by potential usage of other guys.
Well, you're 2 for 2. Let's get to the receivers here. Now, look, Adam, we do all these mock drafts and stuff. I had Michael Penix a shoo-in to the Raiders here to be throwing the ball downfield, but instead you get Brock Bowers. So talk about the target share. Obviously, Davante Adams, he's going to light up the Chargers, by the way, after that whole back and forth on social media. But you have Jakobi Meyers, who really was underrated, got healthy and really contributed, added Michael Gallup, etc., and Brock Bowers and Michael Meyers. So can you sort it out for us? Tight end, wide receiver, how's it going to look for the target share?
Well, first of all, are you sure Davante is going to tear it up? Because he's going to get wide open every play, but who's throwing to him? Like, I mean, that is a question, right? And so, it's funny,
Myers, maybe Jakobi Myers will do it.
Probably their best bet. Maybe Aaron Rodgers. I mean, if he's moved at some point, we'll find out how that plays out. But look, the bottom line is the Raiders have a ton of weapons. There's no question about it in the passing game. Like, there's a lot of guys to throw it to. They bring in Brock Bowers. They add on Michael Mayer, who I think Michael Mayer had an unbelievable offseason. I think he'd be really, really good this year. But again, the question with all these guys is, Brock Bowers is going to get open. They're going to use him a lot. They're going to give him the ball a lot. Michael Mayer is going to get open. They're going to use him a lot and throw him the ball a lot. Same with Jakobi Meyers. And Davante Adams is Davante Adams. I still believe, the best overall receiver in terms of route running, getting open, hands, everything in the league. As much as I love, JJ, and I love Jamar Chase and a lot of the rookies that are coming in as well, I still think Davante Adams is the best. But he can't throw to himself. And I do think they're going to throw it to him. He'll put up his numbers at times. But again, I do think all of the weapons on the Raiders are somewhat limited by the fact of how are they going to get him the ball. And I'll tell you this, Brock Bowers in particular, when I talk about maybe the usage inside the 5-yard line for Zamir White, they're handing the ball to Brock Bowers a lot. Like they're putting him in the backfield, both, H-back, really like as a kind of an offset tight end, where he's coming in motion and taking a lot of handoffs. Like, they're going to put the ball in his hands a lot, and it's not going to necessarily require somebody throwing it to him. So I think that's something to watch for. I think they're going to move Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers all over the field and get them involved as many ways as they possibly can. So those guys I like. Again, the value is what it is because you're seeing guys get drafted, I think, sooner than maybe they should. Brock Bowers in dynasty drafts is going incredibly early. There's no question about it, and there's a reason why. I mean, tight ends are scarce, and when you can get a good one, they're valuable. At some point, he's going to be really, really good, but I just don't know where his ceiling is year one. We already know how hard it is for tight ends. I think a lot of people have PTSD from Kyle Pitts for 2 years. He's the same type of player. He's incredibly talented, but that just because you're an awesome player doesn't mean you're going to put up awesome stats. And I think that's something to kind of be leery of. Now, somebody's going to put up numbers because they're going to have to move the ball at some point. Although if anybody watched the Vikings Raiders game last year, that's not necessarily true. I don't think anybody had a first down the entire game. So it's not like you're automatically going to get yards, but this is going to be a struggle. Now, and I'm making all these points also saying there is room for Aiden O'Connell to improve. Gardner Minshew has at times in his career been an effective quarterback. Last year, he had games where he was an effective quarterback. Like, I don't think it's a lost cause completely, but I do think that there's a long way to go for this offense to get where it needs to go to make, 4, 5, 6 guys fantasy relevant. And you're seeing 4, 5, 6 guys get drafted.
Wow, Adam, haymaker after haymaker. Last question, we will get you out of here. Defense and strength of schedule and outlook. Per Aaron Schatz here, FTN Fantasy, Vegas Raiders, 8th in DVOA last year on the defensive end. Strength of schedule, I believe you're 9th per Vegas projected opponent win totals here. Defense and Antonio Pierce, obviously going to be strong. Talk to me about the schedule. Talk to me about the outlook here, how everything comes together for the Raiders in 2024.
They have a lot of winnable games at home. They have a very brutal road schedule. It's brutal for them in terms of trying to win games. Great for me. There's a lot of vacation spots. A trip to Miami, trip to New Orleans. It's awesome. Nice trip to Tampa as well. Baltimore week 2. I love the aquarium. Get some crab cakes. It's going to be perfect. So a great travel schedule. But those are some tough places to win. And they start off with Harbaugh week 1 on the road in L.A. against the Chargers. You mentioned kind of the drama that's been cooked up between Davante Adams and the Chargers social media team. So that's going to be an interesting game. And then they go to Baltimore. So they go Harbaugh's back-to-back. If they go 0-2, like, how does that impact the team? How does that impact the emotional wave that we've seen them riding through the offseason? That's something I'm very concerned about. They're going to have to win week 1, I think, in order to activate a lot of what they want to do. So if they're 0-2, I think the vibes that they've been riding completely change. And this team, the team outlook is dramatically different after those 2 weeks. So that's something to keep an eye on. But there are winnable games at home. There's some games that they should be able to put up some pretty impressive numbers against, you would think, on some of these home games. But the road schedule is really tough. That's something to watch out for in terms of fantasy. Defense is going to be really good. I think they're not only going to be, a team that holds teams, they're gonna score points on the defensive side. When you pair Christian Wilkins with Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, a name that not a lot of people talk about, but he's a guy who second half of last year was really, really good. I know Brian Baldinger said maybe the most productive pass rusher nobody knew about the second half of last season. That just came out last night that he put that video out. So a lot of good things. And then, look, Tyree Wilson was a disaster. I don't think there's any question about it. I thought last year going into the draft, somebody asked me who the biggest bust was going to be before the Raiders took him. I said Tyree Wilson. I think that was probably accurate because, of course, he ends up here. But watch out for him. I was just around him the other day. He's bulked up a lot. He's huge right now. And that signals to me that he's going to play inside even more than people think. So you put Christian Wilkins and Tyree Wilson, if he can regain any kind of form he had from college, rushing from the inside with single team blocks, because everybody's going to be focused on blocking Crosby and Wilkins and to some degree Kuntz, Tyree Wilson all of a sudden can have a breakout. And then if all four of those guys are playing at that kind of level, what does that do for the secondary? I mean, they'll only have to cover for a second, and then they can, they don't have to do it for very long because nobody's going to be able to throw the ball downfield. I think Jack Jones is the guy who's going to score some points on his own, some interceptions. Robert Spillane, the linebacker, is not a guy that is going to blow you away with athleticism or anything like that, but he knows where to be, and he understands the defensive front he's playing behind. So he's a guy that I think can force some turnovers as well. The safety unit last year, nobody talks about them. They were maybe one of the best safety duos in the league between Epps and Merrick, who were incredible, and nobody really talked about them. So this defense is legit. I don't think there's any question about that. It's going to keep them in games. It will also probably limit what some of the offense does because they're not going to really be falling behind very much. There's not going to be like a lot of garbage time stats, even if they're not a good team. So that's something to kind of be leery of. But I think the defense is legit. The schedule is manageable, at least in the home games. I just think that there's some limits to what the upside can be for the offensive players.
It's short field because the defense sounds like a lot of handoffs to Brock Bowers in the red zone.
Yep.
Folks, Davante Adams told the Chargers to keep his name out of their mouth. I am not keeping Adam Hill's name out. That may have been my favorite preview we've ever had. Ton of information. Follow him on X at Adam Hill, VRJ. He is there for the Review Journal, Vegas Review Journal. Adam, great stuff, man. Thank you so much. I know you're busy. Love to talk to you again in August as we get closer, but that was a heck of a job. Thanks so much.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
The NFL Team Preview Series is sponsored by Boom Fantasy, your top choice for daily fantasy sports action. Boom Fantasy has the most innovative games that cater to both casual and hardcore fans. Win up to 500 times your entry only at Boom Fantasy. Download now on the App Store and Google Play. Use promo code FTN to get a no-sweat bonus up to $100.